just like spliced together. So I thought his stuff was really cool. Let's see. Well, if you, Knut, if you want to go ahead and just tell us a little bit about yourself. What we're going to get into today is Gatsby and Sanity IO, which is a headless CMS. And I'll let you give whatever sort of pitch or explanation of what Sanity is. And you can go ahead and do your introduction of who you are as well. And then we'll go ahead and get started.
Sure, thanks. First of all, thanks for having me. This will be fun, I hope. So yeah, I'm Knut. You pronounced it perfectly. I'm sitting outside of Oslo in Norway, and I work in developer relations at Sanity IO, which is also based in the Bay Area over there, like a 9-hour time difference. I'm used to late meetings, in other words. Yeah, Sanity, as you said, it can be a headless CMS. We call it a platform for structured content. And the idea is that we want to make it really easy and really delightful for developers and editors to treat content as data. So we have some real-time APIs with some different query languages like GraphQL and something called Grok. And we have this open source editor, which is like the CMS that you can customize and deploy pretty much anywhere, because it's like a React single page application that connects to these APIs. And we have a bunch of tooling and libraries and stuff that makes this whole how to get content out on the web or like on your internet connected toaster or whatever easy and delightful. So that's kind of the elevator pitch.
Sweet.
For a semi-long elevator ride.
That's good. So I will add some context on top of that in relation to
Yeah, sure.
what I'm doing specifically and what I did in part 1 and 2. So in the landscape of static site generators specifically, in JAMstack, like this gets into the whole JAMstack conversation. But with static site generators, they need somewhere to get content from. And what happens is the static site generator will get content and then go ahead and generate static pages to represent, in this case, like an index page for a blog or the individual blog pages themselves. And so for mine, and a lot of people do this, they use embedded Markdown files, or you could use any other type of file really, but embedded in the source code. And for me, I was doing that, and you can actually see which one of these windows. Yeah. On this side, inside of my source code, I've got a data directory, and then I've got a section for posts, live streams, snippets, talks, and images that I then pull in through GraphQL with Gatsby, which is pretty sweet. But honestly, it's kind of cumbersome because for each one of these posts, I have to like manually go out and create a new folder, give it a title, create an index file, go in and update all of the front matter, make sure that that looks right. And it's not that big of a deal. Like it works fine, but I really wanted something that's a little more streamlined. And that's when you start looking at something like a headless CMS. And the idea in general with a headless CMS is it manages your data, and then you control the front end with React or Gatsby or Nuxt or whatever it is that you use. And you just have some way to go and get that data to then be able to display it. And if people are familiar with headless CMSs, so what are the other ones like in, I guess, competitors? So Contentful is probably one. Prismic. I don't know if you know any of the other like.
I can't think of any actually.
Because none are near as good as Sanity. Is that what the message
Yeah,
is?
but yeah, you have some Take Shape, Graph CMS. It's
Cosmic is another
actually
one.
even WordPress, even
Mm-hmm.
Drupal. It seems like all the CMSs are adding APIs to their stuff now.
Yep.
So if you are stuck with one, chances are you can get an API and get going.
Yeah, and I think the WordPress one is actually a really interesting example because that's the pretty stereotypical way that people created blogs for themselves up until really the last couple of years at scale. Like a lot of people would just jump to WordPress because it was easy. Now WordPress has even adapted, like you said, where they've exposed basically their like headless aspect of just going through their APIs. And they've got like GraphQL, I think either extensions or plugins that you can include in different frameworks. Maybe it's just specific to certain frameworks. I don't know. But you can interact with it the same way you would what we would consider more of a traditional, like modern headless CMS. So Ben said he was about to head to bed. It's midnight here. I want to know when Ben goes to bed every night because I will send him a message just to respond or to ask him something that I expect him to respond to tomorrow, and he'll respond back like immediately, and it's got to be like 12, 1, 2 in the morning for him. So I think Ben might just keep some interesting night owl hours, but I'm glad he decided to stick around regardless, which is kind of cool.
It may be the case that Ben is also a bot.
He might be a robot. He might be. Let's see. How Hildmo says tried using WordPress content API once and it was gruesome. I wonder how long ago that was. I haven't used it myself. I imagine they've well, depending on how long ago it was, maybe it's gotten better. I don't know. But
Yeah,
especially, go ahead. Yeah.
I may have gotten this incorrectly, but I'm pretty sure that there's a pretty awesome WordPress plugin that gives you a pretty nice GraphQL API, and the person behind it now actually works at Gatsby. I think it's Jason Ball or something.
Okay.
So I think the API offerings for WordPress are getting better, and that comes from me.
That comes from the knowledge of
Yeah,
everything, the source of all truth.
or I have some vested interest in people not using WordPress, right?
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, and it
But
looks like it was 3 years ago. So yeah, I've heard. I didn't know. I forgot the guy's name, but I did hear the same thing, and that plugin for GraphQL with WordPress, I think, is pretty well liked. I've heard about people talk about it on podcasts and stuff like that. So maybe it's worth giving a shot. But also, you should try out Sanity regardless. And I do want to
absolutely,
start. I do want to start by saying, so like as far as headless CMSs go, to me, there's not a whole lot that distinguishes them from each other for the most part, right? Like they have an interface of some sort where you can input data into. You have GraphQL, you have API endpoints that you can request to get the data. Though a couple of things that stood out to me, and you can kind of add on to this and clarify. One is the pricing. This is one of the things that I was really worried about with Headless CMS options, where you start with a free tier and then you bump up to like $40, $50, $100 a month. And I think actually on the pricing for Sanity, the first tier is actually what I would consider relatively expensive. But Sanity has the option for like a pay as you go type thing. And maybe it would be good for me to pull up the pricing where if I need more data storage for images, for example, you can pay per like 5 GB per month and it's a few bucks or something like that.
yeah. It's interesting with this pricing page because we sometimes get feedback on I don't want to like jump from 0 to 199.
Yep.
Even though it's like five, I think it's 5 places on this page we have said like it's pay as you go. So the idea is that you shouldn't have to change tiers based on your usage. That is like API quotas, users, data sets, and so on. But if you need like advanced features like single sign-on or custom access control and stuff like that, then you would have to like amp up or like SLA and like direct support and stuff. So we try to make it easy and like not gotcha for developers to just get started. And if they just have a weekend project like, and you need some JSON in the clouds, like spin up a new Sanity thing and like go ahead.
Yeah, definitely. And I like probably for the most part, I would never jump out of this free tier and maybe not any of the other free tiers anyway. But if I did, I want to make sure that I'm not just making that huge jump. So I do think it would be probably like on the site to make the pay as you go like big, huge, and bold. I think would help.
Make the logo
Because
bigger.
yeah, the details of that are really only included when I click this generous quota link, and now I can see like if I
Yeah.
want more users, I can pay $10 a month. If I want more documents, I can pay $1 for 1K additional documents per month, and so on and so on. So that was one of the things in particular that interested me. The second thing is the customization of the actual interface, and I don't necessarily know that I'm going to dig into and customize it very much. But from a developer perspective, you're not limited to the GUI that they give you. You can go and add on to that because you basically run this thing yourself.
Yeah, exactly. And so where we like to differentiate ourselves from like your regular Headless CMS, because the experience that I think most, if not all, almost of them offers is that you have to deal with their hosted web
Mm-hmm.
application for where you actually are editing content. And that's the place where like teams and developers and organizations and whatnot actually need some customization, because content work doesn't look the same everywhere, and you need some need those kinds of workflows and others need those other kinds of workflows and so on. So didn't want to lock you into like our idea of how we should work with content. We wanted to make it possible for you to customize and configure that yourself with reasonable blocks.
Yep.
So that's the general idea. So we are actually headless. Uh,
Or you can,
and
yeah,
an
that makes
implication of
sense.
that is that, so this content editing environment needs APIs to actually work. And since it's decoupled from the backend, that means that all the APIs that the studio uses, you can use yourself in other things as well. And it's real time, so that means that you have real time APIs. So if you want to make a service that does something with your content automatically, or a bot or whatever, you can totally do that.
And I think one of the implications with the customizability is, and this was one of the things that I didn't quite know when I started, is you actually get, like you said, you get that single page application, which is your GUI for interacting with your data. The data lives out in Sanity servers somewhere. Your GUI you can run anywhere. So, and I will run this locally, and we'll see that in a second. But then, and I haven't done this yet, you probably want to deploy that GUI somewhere. So I will probably deploy that in Netlify as well. And in Netlify, I don't have to pay anything for hosting. It's free. I don't necessarily need a custom domain, although I'm thinking about hosting it under a subdomain of my website. And I don't know exactly what that looks like yet, but I think that would make sense. So that is, I guess that would be like one of the additional responsibilities that comes with Sanity that may not come with the other ones. So you get the benefits of being able to customize it and really make it your own, but it is another responsibility of hosting it. But it's if I don't want to do anything with it, I could have just put it on Netlify from the start and been done with it and not have to do anything about it too. So it's not really, for me, it's not really a burden that I think of from my development perspective. We've got
Yeah,
a.
that's
Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
I guess we should address this because there's probably a bit of delay between, like, we are 6 hours apart or
Mm-hmm.
something.
Yep.
But yeah, as you said, and you can even like have, if you host the studio in GitHub, you can have like renovate bot or depend bot or whatever to have like automatically um, run upgrades, because the whole thing is in npm packages and so on. And if you have it on Netlify, it will just auto deploy new like upgrades and stuff. So you get pretty similar experience to like a hosted web editor if you don't want to like tinker around with it.
Yeah, and I haven't set up any of the like automatic package updaters, so that would be interesting to look at too. I don't know if we'll get there today, but yeah, after that, then you don't have to do anything to get the latest and greatest. A couple of comments in the chat. Code Stacker is here, who is an amazing content creator that I follow in a couple of different places. So I don't, Code Stacker, if you have something you want to promote, feel free to send a link. I love all of your stuff, and I think I commented on something like yesterday on Instagram that I really enjoyed. So, and then Christina says that assuming she just started using it so far, she loves it, which is great. That's good. Haven't finished the project, but I love how dev oriented it is and how customizable and free. So I think that really touches on the points that we've talked about so far, which is great. Code Stacker YouTube channel, Code Stacker, you've got the link there. Go and check out that content. It's really, really great. So I think what I should do is let's open up. I've got my Sanity project here. So this is basically generated for me. The only thing I've done in here is added a couple of schemas and then customized a couple of schemas. So inside of a post, it's got things like a slug, an excerpt, an image, standard stuff that people are probably used to. And this is how you add fields to your actual post, and then we'll see that in the GUI here in a second. And I'm going to blank on this right offhand. It's probably in the package JSON. What's the command to actually start this?
It's probably npm start or sanity start if you have the CLI installed.
Maybe that's what I've had done before, but I think this is looks like that's running. So we'll get that thing up and running, and then at the same time, I'm going to scroll over to my site, which is a Gatsby site, and just run Gatsby develop. So that'll take a second, and what we'll have is we'll have two different things running. I say the back end, but it's really a front end for the back end, and then we'll have the true front end, which is like just my Gatsby site itself. And what is it? Is the localhost 3000 is where?
That's I think it's
5,000?
No, it's 3,333.
Oh,
which is like the worst number to say.
It's whatever. We'll get there. All right, so this is opening up the Sanity dashboard, again, running locally. I am already logged in, so because I've logged in before with my GitHub credentials, it's already logged me in. After I deploy this thing, somebody might try to visit it, but they won't be able to authenticate. Like it's only my user who I've registered this application with. So if anyone had any concern about, well, if it's just out there, you have to log in to be able to do all of your stuff. So for what it's worth. And then inside of a post, and that's what we're going to look at mainly today, I've got several. So what I did is I migrated all of my blog post over to this, and I did a manual process. I could have probably written a script and like use the API and done that, and maybe I might with this new update that we're doing now. But inside of here, standard stuff: a title, YouTube ID if I want to embed the YouTube video, excerpt, slug, cover image, tags, the publish date, and then we get down to the body. And what I've done to make it as easy as possible to get started is just copy over my raw Markdown and add, I think there was a Sanity Markdown extension that I installed with the GUI. So which gives me this ability to add an input of, let's see where the body is here, input of type Markdown. So it gives me that custom type of Markdown. And so this way, like with all of my existing posts, I just literally copy over all of these things and then I'm ready to go. And you can see that all of this is working at my site. So I can go to the blog, I can see this, I can see the YouTube video embed is working. I actually don't see, I think I messed up the dates on these myself, but the top VS Code extensions, that video is there. So bringing in YouTube videos, links and stuff are working. It works pretty well. The one thing I did see that way that is a problem, or there's two problems that I continue to have. One is that code snippets, and I think this would just be me and going and changing how I style them, but code snippets now on mobile will take up.
Oh, yeah.
They will continue to scroll. They won't wrap or do a horizontal scroll. So it ends up messing up the width of my overall application. I might have to do this even smaller. There we go.
So, a good old white space overflow thing, right?
Yep. So I think I could go in and customize that. So that's not with CSS. That's not a huge deal. The problem that I'm having, or that I want to solve, is that, let's get a good example. I forget which one. This one maybe. I don't do a whole lot of images in my blog posts, mainly because it's been kind of a hassle up until now. I didn't want to include a ton of images in my source code. But like this image here, what I did is I grabbed the URL for the already deployed blog post. So you can see this URL here is from jamesqquick.com/static. So where I'd already deployed this thing, I just grabbed the URL and embedded it in here in Markdown. But that's not a great experience. What I want is an editor where inline I can go ahead and add all of my images. And I think that's kind of the precursor to what we're going to talk about today, which is using portable text in Sanity instead of just raw Markdown.
Right. Yeah. Because I was in chat in your first video, and I was pestering at you about like, don't use Markdown, use portable text. It's great. But it is a new thing, and you have to learn it, right?
It was. I don't think, in fairness to like you and everybody else, I don't think I thought enough about what that experience would be like moving to a headless CMS. Because at first it turned me off, and I was like, what is all this stuff? I was kind of freaking out. I was like, I don't know what all this is. Just give me the ability to paste in Markdown. But I didn't quite realize that I will continue to hit limitations with images specifically. So if there was a way to like easily upload a bunch of images to Sanity and then just reference them in Markdown with those URLs, I could do that. I don't know if
Yeah,
there is an easy way to do that or
there
not.
is.
Okay, well
Yeah.
that could be interesting too. But even easier is probably just to have this like inline editing experience where I can do it all in one. And that's what portable text is, and that's what we'll talk about today.
Yeah, let's do it.
Well, I mean, we'll go ahead and get started. I assume the first thing I want to do is inside of my Sanity project is I'm going to create another property, another field, and it's going to have a type of, I'm assuming, portable text. So a new field will be an object, and this will be, I don't know what to call it now.
Body
Main,
two.
yeah, body two,
Yeah,
right?
content or something. Text. I don't know.
And the reason I think this is important to clarify, I'm not going to get rid of the existing Markdown property yet. I might eventually, but there's no reason to get rid of it until I know that I've got something new working the way that I expect. So,
I think this is a pretty sensible way to go about it.
cool. Glad we're on the same page. All right. So the title of this, we'll call it main content, and then the type is this is going to be a built-in type, and then this will be portable text.
Actually, no.
Okay.
And I think we should like take a step back
Okay.
and talk a bit about what is this portable text thing that you're talking
Sure.
about.
All right.
So portable text is a open specification for how to deal with rich text content in a way that's agnostic or like independent of where you want to present it. It means that it's not like HTML. HTML is like a semantic syntax language that mostly browsers know how to deal with. Purple text is a JSON-based thing. It doesn't look very pretty. You wouldn't want to write portable text yourself. You would want an editor to deal with that. But the structure that you save this rich text content is sort of easy to turn into something different, whatever that is. If it's a native React component or a Vue component or a Svelte component, or even I've seen like serializers for Clojure and like .NET stuff and so on. So it makes rich text like makes it easy to take rich text into other presentations. That's basically it. And also makes it possible to, if you use it with Sanity, you can actually query rich text. So you can say that I want all the blog posts that has more than 2 code examples in them.
That's cool.
So, and you can have references inside of them, which are indexed and all this kind of goodness that you don't
Interesting.
necessarily think about when you are writing Markdown in a file.
Yeah.
uh, until you have to deal with the problems that
Yep.
spurs out of that. So that's the basic idea. So you can even serialize portable text into Markdown if you have like a Jekyll based blog.
Mm-hmm.
You can also do that.
And I think two things that are really important with what you just said. One is this is a standard, so it's not a standard that I knew of, but this means that it's portable text is not a Sanity specific thing. It's a standard that Sanity is working with to store rich text. Is that a fair?
To be fair, we made the specification.
Okay.
I haven't seen it been adopted yet, but
Okay.
we are also working on an editor that's actually that will work outside of the studio, so
Okay.
you can take it with it. And I know there's some other efforts as well. So soon, I guess.
So it is
Yeah,
it is a little bit Sanity specific now.
it is.
But it is a standard that anyone can go and use, and maybe we'll gain some adoption. We don't know. But the other interesting thing of this, and this is a note that you sent me before this in the last couple of days, I was still worried about portability in terms of if I were to move to a different platform later on. Like right now with embedded Markdown, at least to me, is Markdown, and I could just copy and paste that somewhere and do something similar to what I did inside of Sanity. But you gave me kind of the escape hatch is how you phrased it, which is a link on how to convert your Sanity stuff to Markdown. So if I needed to do that, I could do that, and then I could go about my typical workflow.
Not just that, but you can export it to any flavor of Markdown that you would want, because there are
Okay.
different flavors of Markdown, different ways to like mark stuff up in down. That doesn't make sense. You
The
even have stuff
markup
like,
down.
yeah, you even have stuff like MDX, where you have like JSX components inside of Markdown. And you can also serialize to that. I made like a Sanity to MDX stack thing way back. So it's pretty convenient. And um, when you just start writing pretty regular Markdown, it's pretty portable. There's a lot of adoption and tooling around that. But when you start to want to have like more content stuff, like more advanced code examples or and so on, then you have to pick some flavors. You have to make some specialized tags and syntaxes and so on. And this is murky territory. This is where we will hit problems when you want to integrate with a new front-end framework, or like take the content into another platform or whatever. And this is where portable text will help you.
Okay, and so for me personally, I don't know much, if anything, about different flavors of Markdown. So when you had mentioned that to me before, you were like, well, Markdown isn't necessarily Markdown everywhere you go. I think for what I'm doing, it probably is. So I like headers and links and images and like basic things like that, I imagine are the same regardless of the flavor of Markdown. So I would probably be safe. But if you are taking advantage of of specific features within a given flavor of Markdown, then that's when you're saying you might have some additional things that have to figure out. So that makes sense. Um, Ben's sleep schedule is wearing on him, and he's dropping out. Ben, thanks for hanging out for a few minutes. I still got to get in and hang out on one of your streams, not a scream. But enjoy, get some sleep, and I will. I guess I'll talk to you tomorrow, which is going to be late afternoon for me. Yeah. All right, so I think that actually helped me. Hopefully that helps some other people that are in the chat as well. And then, do you think is that enough background at this point to go ahead and start in the Sanity? Go back to the
I think
code?
so.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then now you have to tell me what the type of this content is.
Yeah. So if you got a peek of the JSON example we had on the GitHub page, portable text is actually an array of some objects. And the specification is how should those objects look like. And there's probably something that is familiar in this like object. It has a style. So this is a block. So that's typically a paragraph, right? It can have a style. It has some children, which is the spans, which is like the different parts of text that you can have in a paragraph. It also has some mark definitions, and that means that you can annotate a span. You can mark a span with something. Typically, that could be a link. So you can say that this section of the block should have an annotation, and in that annotation, there should be a link. And if you follow this like rationale, you start to see that, oh, I can actually embed any complex data structure into my rich text. So if you want to make a footnote, you can like embed that footnote in place where you need it. And even in that footnote, you can have footnotes and all the way down, right? So it's pretty flexible in that way. And it's also like it has descriptions like type and stuff. So you always know what you are dealing with. And this is pretty darn useful when you are trying to present this somewhere. So that's sort of the idea. And that means, back to Sanity, that if you want to write the schema, you actually start with an array. But before you do that, you actually have this pre-made in your schema, in your template. We can do it from scratch, or we can like reuse the thing that's already there called block content.
That's what it was. Okay.
That's up to you. Yeah.
So this block content this was generated. I haven't touched this at all.
Yeah.
But this is going to be the equivalent of what we just saw. This example of the portable text inside of JSON. But it looks like you've already got things in here for different headers, lists, marks for like bold and italic, links, and additional types. You've got image here as well. And I think this is probably why you specifically asked me the other day. A couple of the things that I will need: images, one, and then code snippets is the second one.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So Tell
Should we
me
just
where to
do it
go.
from scratch? Perhaps.
If you want to, it looks like if you think we can.
And yeah, that's another thing here as well. And this has to do with you want to integrate with Gatsby. That means that you would need to use GraphQL,
Mhm.
and GraphQL has some requirements when it comes to typing and stuff.
Okay.
And for reasons, that means that when you want to use types with GraphQL from Sanity, you have to hoist them. And that's pretty obscure.
Okay.
But that just means that you have to export the type that you're making to the main schema file. So you can reference them in other fields as well. And that's just because it makes it way much easier for us to generate that GraphQL API.
Okay.
Yeah. So so if you want, you can go ahead and just delete all the stuff in this file, and we can just repurpose that
All right.
and go like step by step so that people follow along.
Sweet.
Yeah,
So probably starting off with an export default and then something like that.
yeah, and give it a name, and that name can be rich text, it can be whatever you want.
Where is the name a property
Oh yeah,
or?
sorry, it's a property
Okay.
on the object.
So,
Yeah, it's name.
ah, and what you said, rich text, I could call it whatever.
Yeah,
Okay.
and the type or the title we can perhaps make first.
And this is I'm in JavaScript, so I don't actually need to surround this with quotes on the first one. So what did you say
That's
the type
true.
was?
Array.
Oh, just like that, or
Yeah.
spell out array?
Spell out lowercase.
Lowercase. All right.
And you can go ahead and give it a title perhaps, because this will define sort of a field inside of the studio, right?
So just call this rich text again. Or...
Yeah, or content, or my awesome content, or
all right, I'm keeping my awesome content. We'll run with that.
and then it needs so it needs to be an array of something. So here's the key of, and that takes an array because it can take multiple things.
Okay.
So if you were to only put in like a image field here, you would get this array input field where you can like input multiple images.
Mm-hmm.
But we have a bit of magic, and that magic is if you put in a block definition here, it will generate the rich text editor in the studio.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can start with like making a new object inside of this array.
Yep.
And that object, then you need the name again. No, sorry, you don't actually. You need a type. And that type is block.
Like that.
And this is actually the minimal example. This will give you like a default rich text editor.
Okay. Would that be a good point to go ahead and save and then see what it looks
Yeah,
like in
I
the
think
editor?
so.
Okay. So let's save that. And
Then
then inside of posts, do I need to add a type of block content?
No, this will be rich text.
Oh, because
yeah, for style reasons, I would probably go with the lowercase r, just like camel case thing.
I didn't think of it as being that, but gotcha. So then inside of here, now I'm saying I want a type of rich text, which is what's defined in here. Yeah. And I think the last thing, I'm guessing a little bit, is inside of schema. I need to import that thing.
Yeah, if it's not already imported. I think it is actually.
I might have, block content. Yeah, it is. I thought I might have deleted it, but you need to basically put everything together for your schema. And this is what you're saying. Is this the hoisting part of where it needs to be in this for GraphQL to be able to know that it's there?
Because now you have like this rich text field available in anywhere we want to use it. Mm-hmm. And it will also be exported to the GraphQL API with a type of rich text.
Okay, sweet.
Yeah.
So if I come back to the editor and come over here, I may need to refresh. I might not. Nope.
There it is.
Cool.
Yeah.
And it looked like in your videos, there was a way to make this bigger. I guess it's probably the open and full screen button. So
Probably,
then,
yeah.
then I get this is a nice looking editor so far, and I think so. At this point, I will only be able to include the things that the editor by default lets me do. So I could have like this. I could have a header, so I could do my headers this way. I could have, I could make this bold, for example. So it will do all the things, bold, italic, underline, and the headings, as well as lists, it looks like, and links. So all those things I can do out of the box with just that thing. And then we want to add at least images and code blocks on top of that.
Yeah.
Okay. See, I'm
So we
getting
can
there.
start. Yeah, we can start with images, perhaps.
Okay, so
That's
this
the
will
easy
be
thing.
back in the block content,
Yeah.
and this will be a new object
Yep.
with a type of image.
Yeah.
It's crazy how this works.
And then if you want like the hotspot thing, you can also add that as options.
Is it like a hotspot true?
I think it's options and hotspot true.
So something like this.
Yeah.
And what the hotspot is for people who may or may not know it, it's
I
when
think
you
it's
have
lowercase s, by the way.
Okay, so just okay. But what a hotspot is if you upload an image and that image gets resized in some way, or you ask for specific dimensions, you might miss out on the focus of your content. So if you have an image where the main thing that you want people to see is in the top left, and you center that image and you resize it, you probably crop out the top left. So a hotspot will crop around that targeted area. And that seems like it's a pretty cool feature that's built into Sanity once you include the option to be able to select your hotspot so that when it resizes or scales, you stay on that main area.
Exactly.
Cool. Okay,
go ahead and save, and let's see if it
then,
actually works.
All right, so it's refreshing here. I'll probably need to go and open the editor again. In full screen mode, I get an image, and I don't know who knows what I have on my computer. I don't even know what folder this will open up in. Let's see.
I can show you. Yeah, I could also show you a pretty cool thing. The thing I use the most.
Okay.
So if you go to Unsplash or something.
Okay. Fair enough. Unsplash.
And find yourself an image that sparks joy or something.
Anybody in the chat? Any suggestions on something? What makes you happy as a developer, as a person? Probably right now, just like being around people. I imagine would be nice. Do they have a good like
party
outdoors? All right, we got one comment in the chat, so let's do outdoors. Is something.
And then just copy paste, like right click, copy that image.
Okay, so let me grab. I don't know which. Probably sitting on the edge of a mountain with a beer or boxed water. Boxed water, interesting. So right click and copy image.
Yeah.
And
go back to the image field.
Come back here. Do I open it or just select it?
You open it. You can double click, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
just
paste.
Command V.
Sweet. That's
Boom.
Cool. That's pretty cool. And inside of this, and by the way, for people that are watching, I'm not playing dumb. I'm literally doing all this for the first time. So I'm kind of learning as we go together with you out there. I'm assuming, this is selecting an image if you want to change it. Edit. Let's see there's the hotspot. So this is what we were talking about, where you can select your hotspot for what that targeted area is. So you can resize this, and then you can see as it resizes for these different landscape, portrait, square, all those things, it's staying focused in the area, and I can move this in theory. There we go. To different areas, and it's going to go ahead and rescale appropriately.
Yeah, there's a question in the chat if we rehost the images or if you just like link to Unsplash. This is actually uploading the image to our CDNs. And what happens behind the hood here, we can perhaps look at that in the Gatsby GraphQL Explorer afterwards. We actually take that image, we analyze the color palettes, if there's EXIF data, like information about the camera that took the image, we will take that too. If you have enabled geolocation, we will take the geolocation, and we'll put this into another JSON document that you can query. and you can use that information in your front end. So you can say that let the background image for this image box be like sort of corresponding with the main color in image and so on. So yeah.
Sweet. I'm curious about one thing. If
Yeah.
if I close this and double click again, and let me just remove, and so I'm back at this like paste screen. If I come into my Finder and I copy an image from Finder, like on my computer, which people can't see, but
Oh,
I'm copying
yeah.
it. We'll see. I don't know.
You can at least drag and drop it.
Okay,
I don't know what happens if you copy it. It may work.
let me.
If not, I will have to file a feature request.
It looks like you can. It's not, or maybe I wouldn't clicked on it.
Oh, it did work.
Well, let's see. Oh, sweet. That's cool.
Yeah, and another thing that we do, if you try to upload an image that you have uploaded before, we will just compare the SHA, some of that, and like skip the upload and just like show you the
And
image.
just reference. Okay.
Yeah.
So for people that may not know what that is, it would basically you like hash an image in some way. And so if someone tries to upload an image, you rehash it and then you compare to see if that hash already exists in your database somewhere. If it does, you just use that thing. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. So you don't like you don't get double up and use your quotas and so
Thank you for that.
on.
Cool. That's really nice. And by the way, these are I worked on like a whole new set of templates, cover images for Twitch. So this is like my like I'm going and putting a secret key in somewhere. So I'm taking away, like you can't see my screen, but you can see me. And then it's pay no attention to the developer behind the curtain, which is a Wizard of Oz line if you've seen that before.
Yeah. And I guess you just have to stop me if I go too far into the weeds of this stuff. But like this image selector that you had, it's pretty basic, but that's also something pluggable and customizable. So if you wanted like, so we have like actually a plugin that gives you the Unsplash search within the studio.
Oh, cool.
As a asset selector, if you just want to like have a faster way of bringing that in.
Sweet. And then for all of this extensibility, Sanity.io /plugins, and actually it's the first one or one of the first ones here, the asset source for Unsplash. Cool. And then there's lots of, won't get into, probably we won't get into any of these today, most likely, I imagine. Although the code input might be useful, I don't know. I'll let you. Okay, so that's what we'll use for that. Cool. So there's an array or a list of extensions, plugins out here that you can go ahead and use if you do want to add some different customizability to the dashboard, which that you've got dark mode, which like what better feature can you have for developers than an option for dark mode? But I actually like the editor right here being light themed. This editor looks just super, super clean. I actually like really like the editor itself. So, all right. So we've got the ability to upload images, and is that all we need to do for images at this point?
Pretty much.
Okay.
I guess you could make like an image type and add fields for like alternative text and caption and stuff to it, if you want those sort of things.
That would be a good idea. Yeah. What? How would I need to create my own type in a different file and then reference it here?
I think that's the best way to go about it.
Okay.
Again, this is like the GraphQL thing, because within Sanity you can just add fields to this image object and it will work. But I'm not sure how that will fly with the GraphQL API, because that would be sort of an anonymous type sort of thing. So I think the best way is to actually like make a new file and define the image type in that file.
And
naming.
Yeah, my awesome. I'm gonna run with this. All of these things are gonna be like my awesome versions. All right, my awesome image, and then the way these things start out is export default and then a name. So we'll do the same type of thing. It'll have a name property, and this will be my awesome image as well if I want to use that as my selector. And then a title, and that'll be like what the user actually sees. So my awesome image, and then a type in this,
Yeah,
or type. All right.
type. That's image.
Image.
And you probably want the options for hotspot in there.
Yep. So options, hotspot, all lowercase. True.
And
Oh.
image is actually behind the hood, like, or under the hood. It's a object type. So you can go ahead and add fields to the image type.
Okay. So just like right here.
Yeah, like you do in the document and other objects. Yeah, and that's an array
Of objects.
Yes, and the first thing we want is probably alternative text for accessibility reasons.
So name of alt text.
Yeah, I tend to, yeah, that works. I tend to just use alt, but
yeah, that'll work. Yep.
Whatever flies.
Because that's what the property is in HTML anyway. So name, and then a type of text.
Text will give you like this huge text box, and string will give you this one-liner. So it's up to you.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yep. I think one-liner is good. And is a title. So this will be what the user sees. So I might spell this out, alternative text, whatever. And that's anything else we need to add for that?
No, I think you know what it is. So if I did this for like as an consultant or something, I would perhaps add a description. This is really important, and perhaps even validation, so that you couldn't actually publish without having the alternative text like there. If you want to be really strict about things, but
so the description will be a type text that'll give you the multi-line, like a text area, basically.
Yeah, and that's sort of a note for the field. This field is used for improving accessibility or whatever. It's just a thing that you can add if you want to.
Okay, and then for the alt, you were saying how do I make things required in here?
Yeah, I think that's. I have to check the documentation.
And we can come back to that. That's okay, because it's just me working on this, so it's not that like I will go in.
I think I know it actually, but yeah.
Okay,
I think it's.
Oh, you can try, yeah.
Okay. Let's. I should know this. I'm developed relations, right? It's a new property on the string field called validation.
And how do I assign that to?
It's just under description. Yeah, validation.
I was
and that takes a function, and the param for that function, call that rule or something. It can be anything, but
what is it called?
We tend to go with rule, like
rule?
yeah.
That? Okay.
And I think you have to take the quotes out.
Oh, it's just a regular
actually run,
not in a string. Yep.
And we give you a couple of built-in methods for that. So it's rule.required, and the parenthesis for required after required.
Oh, it's a function.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think that will work.
Okay. And then so this is the alt, and I think I was totally thinking, this is why I got myself confused. When we were doing the description part, I was thinking we were doing a whole nother field, and this would be like the user to be able to type in a description. The description here is just like a placeholder to say like you should input some alternate text for accessibility. Yeah, I was overthinking that. So it's still just the one property.
I think this should probably work.
Okay, so exporting my awesome image, we can come back to block content, and we can replace image with block content.
And you can probably remove the options.
Yep, because we've already defined that. And then do I need to also add that thing to my schema?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's do...
Good catch.
An import of that thing from my... What did I title the file? My awesome image.
Yeah.
I like where we're going with this. And then I'll just come down here and throw that at the bottom. Okay, so
Compiles. Yeah.
go back. That's always a good sign. Let's come into down at the bottom into the editor. I need to get, eventually I'll get like shortcuts to maybe command enter. So can I do that without? No, I think I need to be, do I need to be hovered on it?
I think there's shortcuts.
Or maybe,
Oh yeah.
I think if I'm inside of the editor, the command, but I could customize that and I could add shortcuts to just open it directly from wherever field I'm in, I imagine.
Can you? No, I don't think actually you can. It's not straightforward.
Okay.
Yeah, but more like productivity stuff, like more shortcuts, customizability and stuff. That's totally on the list.
Okay.
We have some like for like the publishing actions and so on. You can like override all those kind of things, and those also they will take hotkeys. But yeah.
Okay. And
yeah, what happens here?
well, so, and I was about to say that, and I think Sanity does a pretty good job of telling you, like the data that you have, that the data that you already have doesn't quite match what it expects, because we changed the data type from image to our custom image, and then we made a required field. So we can look in the details here, and it will say encountered a value of type image. Only the following types are valid according to the schema, because we said we can put in my awesome images, not images directly. So I would assume at this point, just remove that. And then I can come back in to the my awesome image, which for that title, I would probably shorten it just because of space. So I'll come back and do that. But you get a similar work here. I copied that image earlier. Copy that and then get inside of here and paste, which I think is super cool. I love that. That's really nice. And let's see, edit will still just do the hotspots. And
yeah, there's a bit of UI that we could improve here, but if you go back to edit and scroll down, there you'll have your fields. Okay, yeah, cool. And this is not like we should like do something with this.
Okay,
but we can actually do something with this ourselves in configuration now to lift this field into the modal that you had first there.
Okay, and it's not, I mean, once I see it, now I know where it is, so it's not that big of a deal. I think I could like shrinking these whole things to make them take up less space so that this is visible quicker, I think would be nice too. And by the way, I've got, hopefully this doesn't become a problem, I've got directly behind me is our master bathroom, which is being completely renovated. And I've got a person in there hammering right now. I'm hoping this mic, usually, that's getting kind of loud. Can you hear that coming to you?
No, I can't totally hear that hammer sound.
Okay, you're being sarcastic. They're saying in the chat that they can.
But it's probably fine.
Okay, let me know. Hopefully it doesn't get too bad. Let me know in the chat if you think it does get too bad, and we might have to wrap up. But I think we're doing pretty good so far, and we'll keep chugging ahead. So we've got our alt text set. We could add any other fields to this image type that we want, which I think is really cool. And I wonder if other editors, which I doubt they would they let you customize for a given object what properties you want? And I'm thinking no, because they just have like, that's loud. This is,
sorry, I lost the last question there.
Probably because of all the drilling. I think the overall comment, I think, is just that this is going to give way more customizability. Obviously, we talked about this than you would in another editor. Probably with a different Headless CMS, you've got a few options, and that's basically what you're stuck with. And a few is probably several. Gosh,
don't mind the man behind the wall.
Yeah, right? Don't mind. All right, so you're saying voice is still louder than the hammers. That's good. Let me know. I'll keep going. Like I'm good. I'll keep going. And
James,
if it gets to a bad point,
what time is it?
It is 10 o'clock. My time.
It's not hammer time.
I should have picked up on that. Yes, it's hammer time. It's like drilling time. It's all the different times.
Right. Yeah. And but just to expand on that. So we didn't give you like a great preview for this image field that you have now, because you have like a string field in there, so we showed the string field.
Yep.
This preview, this way of showing this data, that can also be customized in the studio by putting in your own React component, for example, or selecting which of the fields you want to preview.
Okay. Is that something I can easily add in the data type
I think
here?
so. The quickest way to do this is to add a new property on the sort of image uh, field definition. So between options and fields, or just
Okay.
after fields or whatever, called preview.
Okay.
And that takes an object. And oh, this is interesting. Can you actually select the asset? Um, just to like show the example, I think you can give it if you give it the property component, and just in this file you can import React and write a pretty basic JSX component that just puts out the data in pre tags or something. So preview.
Const like a
Yeah, and
am I gonna
take
need
some
the
prop.
props?
You need props.
All right. Props in here. And then you
Just put
said
in
just
some
do a pre.
pre, and inside of those, JSON stringify. Do you know the trick?
JSON stringify
Props,
props. Props
comma,
dot or just all props.
props, comma, nil, comma, 2, or 4 if you prefer 4 spaces indentation.
Oh, is that okay? So I saw you do this in your video. I didn't know exactly what you were doing. So I know what JSON stringify is. Take an object and convert it to a JSON string. I don't know what the second parameter is. I'm looking at
It's
the
a
docs here.
replacer. It's actually pretty powerful. I never used it. I know Vespos uses it all the time, but it makes it possible for you to replace stuff inside of the object thing or something.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah,
And then
Google
two
it.
is
I don't
the
know.
two is the indentation. So you could do 2 or 4.
Yeah, or
And then I
10.
think I see what you're
Yeah,
doing. So in this, you're just creating this so that we can see what the props are.
yeah. So
Okay.
if you just
So
stick
now
preview to that,
preview. Okay. And this is cool because we create a very simple React component and then come back into the editor and that's what it shows. So that renders
yeah.
all the props and then we get the type, the
Did you have
layout.
an image
For this
inside of
one,
it?
yes. It has an image in there.
Yeah.
So it
So
doesn't.
we might need to actually select the data, and this is where my knowledge becomes fuzzy.
Okay.
Uh,
Well, that's probably not the most important thing. So we can leave it the way
yeah,
it was, and I'll just comment it out so I can come back.
I
And
can
then this way, at least for me, the functionality is there when we get done, and I can have that image there. And so just adding it, that's probably good for now for me
yeah.
of adding images. And maybe the next thing to do would be the code. And before
Let's
we
do
do
the
that,
code.
I just want to check in everybody in the chat. Just want to see how you're doing. Are we covering stuff that's interesting to you? Do you have any questions? I just want to pause and make sure that we're all in sync on what's going on here. So if you have any questions or comments, just throw them in the chat. We'll take a second to let you do that. We've got a great list, by the way, of people in. It says that my friend Chris on Code, it says, is watching and is in the chat. I'm wondering if he is actually in here or not. I'll put him on the spot. He's been big into Headless CMSs recently. And I think I'm going to follow up and do a Getting Started with Sanity article for the Scotch platform, which is what he
Awesome.
runs. So I'll let you know when I do that. We got JMSWRNR says, hey,
That's
hello.
James Warner.
Oh,
Hi,
James
James.
Warner. Okay, very cool.
Yeah, he has a pretty cool website.
Awesome. James Warner, do you actually want to share your website? I'd love to
Yeah.
take a look since we're hyping it up. Coach Sacker says doing great, learning a lot. Awesome. Glad you're here, by the way. It's cool to have other content creators in the chat. Love it. I'll give in case James wants to. There it is. All right, let me open this up in the browser that we can see. I'm curious about this site. Oh wow, that is intense. People can't see it yet, but it's loading up. That's super slick. I don't. All right, I feel like this would be like a whole a whole conversation of how in the world you built and did this. That's wildly cool. And then,
There's
oh
there's
gosh,
actually a blog post about how to do the hero.
really?
Uh,
Wow.
this is
Oh,
super slick site. Yeah.
and a little shout out here, built with Sanity, and next, which is on my list of things to look at next, pun intended. And then hosted in Zeit, which is I'm assuming you mean their hosting platform. Super cool. 3JS is for like 3D animation type stuff, so maybe that's what you're using to create that really cool effect. That's like wild. That's awesome. Oh, and he like turns when I scroll. He follows. Wow, that's awesome. Really cool. All right, so I think if we're good in the chat, I think next thing is the code, so we can go ahead and dive into that one, and you can let me know. Well, maybe it's the plugin. So you just tell me what we need to do to get started with code.
Yeah. So there's plugins for Sanity, and those are really npm packages, and we have made sort of a convention that makes it easy to install them. So perhaps you can go to the plugins page as you did and click the code input.
Sweet.
And there's like a lot of documentation going on here. But what you're interested in is the command for installing it, right? I think you can copy. Yeah. Now
And
it should
then,
be on your clipboard.
yep.
And within the studio folder, you can just run that command. And what that command will do is to add this as a dependency to package JSON. I think you have a tilde at
Did I
the end of
do?
the.
Oh, yeah, it pasted in something weird.
Hmm,
I think I actually did control copy instead of command, and it grabbed. I don't know what it actually grabbed. So.
But yeah, so it adds the dependencies to package JSON, but what it also does is to add this as a plugin into the Sanity JSON file.
Okay. I want to
I don't
see
know if
what
you
that.
should like perhaps look at that just to see
Yeah.
what goes on.
So one of the things that's in here is my project ID. Is that secret?
No,
Okay. All
it's
right.
it's
It's
not
just a
secret.
unique identifier.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Gotcha. Um, so looking down here, we've got code input, and then the Markdown is the other one. So
yeah,
I did the Sanity install for Markdown before too. Cool. So that's just configuration file for Sanity.
yeah.
And then with that, I would imagine I can copy this snippet.
Yeah, you can.
And
I hope.
yeah.
And that will also be like just another block.
So inside of oh, sorry, right here. Yeah, like that.
Yep.
My code editor default code. Sweet. So
I think you can actually remove the name. You don't need that inside of arrays.
okay.
But yeah.
All right. So then we'll start this thing up again. And who else? Just out of curiosity, anybody else actively paying attention? Yeah, leaked. In the chat. Love to just get a feel for who's out there and what maybe some of your backgrounds are, if you've used Sanity or Headless CMSs or JAMstack, or if you're brand new to JavaScript or whatever. Let me know in the chat. All right, this is starting back up. And I imagine it's probably doing something Well, I may or may not, but maybe he has to do some extra stuff because of that new plugin. Let me refresh. It might have already done it, but let me refresh to get in here and scroll down to my editor again. Got a couple of things in the chat. Type code, awesome. Yeah. I'm trying to listen, but working um, on Vue.js as well. Really cool. That's Carlson Codes. I will be doing a stream next Friday on Gridsome, which is built on top of Vue, and I don't know anything about Vue. So that'll be like a total learning experience. So if you want to come back next Friday, please do that. And okay, so back in the editor, it looks like I've got a code editor default. It's got pre-populated language stuff, which is nice because I hate having to type out a Markdown the backtick JavaScript, and then like I hate having to do that. So I could paste. If I just grab, I don't know, I'll grab this object.
Inception. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Let's do that. Is that valid JavaScript? So now, cool. And code editor okay, so that's just the actual block itself. So what will, and I don't think we'll get to this today because we're probably close-ish to wrapping up, especially if more work goes on back there. But I think what we should do, CodeStacker's heading out. Thanks for coming. CodeStacker, thanks for being here. I think what we should do, if you're up for it, is we should have a second stream to do how to incorporate this into Gatsby.
Yeah, totally.
So if you're up for that, we will find out a time and I will blast it out on Twitter. So everyone that's here that's looking for part 2, keep an eye out for that on Twitter. Anything I need to know? I mean, it looks pretty straightforward with this code. Anything I need to know about what we've got here, or anything else we need to add to it?
It's only possibilities and opportunities, right? So you can like customize the icons. I don't know, but now you should be set to go, like for like basic blog post content at least. And what's also good to know is that this editor should be able to handle copy paste from a web page, from Word, from Google Docs, and turn that into portable text. So like the no code way of migrating your content would be to actually just copy paste the HTML web page in the browser into this field, and it should probably work pretty neatly.
Okay.
I'm not totally sure about the images, but yeah, you'll see. So the styles and everything should probably. Yeah. Now I'm like turning like.
So I've got.
Let's put this to the test.
I want to test something out because a lot of times I use Stack Edit to write my blog post in Markdown, which I may not be doing going forward. But this is a post that I have like this little bit to finish, and I took the course by Jason Langsdorff on Front End Masters about the intro to the JAMstack, and I just wrote a post about some of the things that I learned that I thought were really cool. So this is all Markdown, and I'm just curious if I take this and
that won't work.
That Markdown won't work. So
it could work, yeah. But I think if you took the other side,
okay,
like the HTML side of that Stack editor thing, that would probably work better.
All right, let's do that then. So just like copying.
Yeah, get a header. Yeah.
Sweet. It's got a link in there. This would be really interesting too, if that.
Yeah.
Dope. So that so I can see
it mostly.
This is an H2, so that works. This is just doing it inside of a pre-tag. It didn't convert to the actual code tag. So that I could, but at that point, I could copy and paste this.
Of course. So, so we also give you a way to actually override the paste handler. So how it should work when you paste stuff. So for like the Sanity studio, like the one we use for our webpage, I've made like a custom Markdown paste handler, so I can paste Markdown, and if I have a code snippet, it will turn into the proper code block and so on. So it's possible. It's just not out of the box, and I can share. I can just share the gist for that in the chat actually.
Okay, sweet. Looks like James Warner was just about to ask about pace handling.
So let's see. I'll just browse my
Alpha
gists.
HSL commented with like, is it like $ keys, like computer keys or keyboard keys? Is that what that is? That's what it looks like. Or maybe it's just $signs and I'm just making up stuff as a developer.
See, here I have it. Custom portable text block editor with Markdown, paste, and stats. Yeah, I made a little like stats thing that counts the words and read time and so on. So the gist is in the chat.
Yeah, so everybody else can go and check this out as well. Cool, and that, I mean, it doesn't. So there's a decent amount of code in here, but like one, I'm assuming I could just incorporate this into my project myself.
Yeah, you could probably almost just copy paste it. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, but in addition to this, I just like, we've mentioned this several times, but this is, I imagine this is like the number one or at least top 3 selling points of Sanity is customization, right? Being able to have full control over the editor and do whatever it is that you need to do.
Yeah.
Sweet. All right, so I think this would probably be a good time to wrap up, and the reason is, if you're good, I'm good to do a part 2, and we'll figure out a time to do that.
Totally.
And I think that would be a great one because I think we've got a good amount of interest in here. People in the chat, this is a great number of people here. So just I'll do a little recap, and then you can jump in and kind of clarify anything if you need to. But we started with just talking about the landscape of headless CMSs, JAMstack, and static site generators. I'm using Gatsby as a static site generator. I wanted to get away from Markdown embedded in my, and images for that matter, embedded in my source code. I wanted to have that be taken care of somewhere else in the form of a headless CMS. I don't know if you were involved in this conversation. This was a couple of months ago. I can't remember. But I posted on Twitter that I felt like there was a gap in headless CMS options of like you have the free tier, but then you jump to like the relatively expensive paid tier if it's just a personal project. So when a lot of people, which may have been you or maybe not, they jumped in and really clarified, like with Sanity, the free tier is really nice, like most of them. But in addition to that, you get the ability to have that like pay as you go experience where if it's just one specific thing that I need more of, I can pay a few bucks a month and add that on, which to me, that was great. Because one, if I hit that paid tier, I don't want to all of a sudden make that jump. But if I do hit a paid tier, I'm probably doing something relatively good because I've got a good amount of content and I can start to like invest a few bucks progressively as I need it. So that was one of the big things. So we, in the first couple of streams, which this is a playlist on my YouTube channel that you can find. And I think you created a playlist of those videos on the Sanity channel as well. This is part 3, so I will upload this to YouTube, but, I've got my site, working with Sanity. I created the Sanity dashboard. I got it working with my site with all the data. The thing was I wanted to move or look at moving away. And I think you've sold me of moving away from raw Markdown and using the editor inside of Sanity. And we just looked at setting that up for adding the custom components or types to be able to add images and the plugin for code. And that's basically all I need because the built-in editor has everything else for the most part, which I think is really slick. And I think some other people commented too that looks really nice. So that's where we are. The next step, 2 things I think that I need to do is one, host this at some point, which I want to get this working because I want to get this working so that I can easily list out my streams on my streams page because I want to advertise that for people. And I can advertise this one as an upcoming stream as well once I get that in a place that I am good with. So I might do a little work on this myself this weekend. But I want to at least show and talk about the 2 things. One is hosting, just getting this on Netlify. It's not going to be tough. It's just putting it out there. And the second thing is what we were saying of actually displaying all this content in Gatsby. And I think you need to do your query in GraphQL, and then there are some serializers things that you need to define to be able to convert the portable text to either HTML elements or Markdown components themselves, and really have full control over how you render this in a blog post page, for example, or whatever page is involved. That's my recap. Anything that you would like to clarify or add to any of that?
Yeah, so what we will do in the next stream that we are totally going to do is
Yes.
is actually you don't have to go into Markdown at all. You can actually serialize the stuff directly into React components, and
Mm-hmm.
that's the beautiful part of this. So it's like less code, less hassle, and yeah, I look forward to that actually. So you can have like proper Prism component things for your code examples and so on.
Sweet.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I am one. Well, so a big thank you to you for one being active in the chat originally. So the first, I don't think you made the second one, but the first stream when I was literally just getting started with all of this, you were very active in the chat and a few others, and that was the most help I've ever gotten in any project while I was learning in Twitch. And maybe just like learning in general, I don't know, but it was super super helpful. So thanks for being there for that. Thanks for coming on today, and we'll schedule another one. We will pump it out on Twitter so everyone can see, and I am super excited about that as well. Everything that I've done with Sanity so far has been really really positive. There's definitely some things to learn because of the ability to customize, but with that, I think once you get comfortable with it, you're fine, and then you get this ultimate control over what you want to do in the future. So I've been a big fan. I'm excited about it. I'm excited where my site is taking me, and thanks a lot for all of your help along the way. Is there any final thoughts, words, anything that you would like to shout out about Sanity? Anything you'd like to promote, anything at all? Feel free to go ahead and share now.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Again, thanks for having me. I think the reason you got so much help in the chat is because we have a pretty awesome developer community over at slack.sanity.io.
Hmm.
So if you are getting started, if you are stuck, if you are actually also deep into to building with Sanity and are not sure how to go about things, join that Slack workspace and you will get help. And the core or the Sanity team is also there all the time to help out. And another neat thing there is people are sharing their projects and websites and stuff. So James' website was shared there for everyone to see. That was great. And yeah, I think that's the thing I want to promote. Of course, if you want to try out Sanity, go to sanity.io/create, and you can skip all this having to build the Gatsby blog from scratch because we built it for you, so you can
Yep.
just deploy it and customize it as you want. But yeah, it's probably a great like learning tactic to actually do stuff from scratch. You
Yep.
get the stuff more under skin that way. But yeah, I look forward to the next stream.
Sweet. And yeah, to your point about the learning process of doing it from scratch, I think the starter templates are amazing to get everything up and configured, but the part you sacrifice is understanding what's going on behind the scenes. Because like when I created the Sanity thing first and we were talking in chat, I was like, I don't know what the hell any of this stuff is.
Yeah,
So now
it's a
that
lot
I've
of
gone through the
stuff.
process, it makes so much more sense. So yeah, I'm definitely glad to have gone through this process and enjoyed it. I do want to shout out a couple things on my end. Tomorrow, I'm going to be streaming at 2 p.m. Central, and I'm really excited about that one because Andrew Mead, who is an instructor on Udemy, if I can pull him up, he is actually one of the instructors that I've taken several classes from and have a ton of respect for him and the things he's done. He's going to join and talk about GraphQL, which I've done GraphQL just from the perspective of Gatsby, which like you write some queries and you've got graphical as an interface for it. But I've never really understood or done any GraphQL like on the server. I've never used Apollo. So we're going to look at both of those with a demo application. So that one's going to be tomorrow at 2 p.m. Next week on Friday, I'm going to have, let's see, Dan Vega is on. This is why I need the page to list out all the upcoming streams. But Dan Vega is going to be on to talk about Vue and Gritsum. And then next Thursday, it's Gara P, I think, is going to join at the 2 p.m. session to talk about Headless CMS versus using like embedded stuff in your source code, which actually, if you wanted to join or just hang out in the chat, I don't know if I haven't facilitated like 3 videos, but if you want to just hang out in the chat, that'd be great conversation for you to be a part of as well. And then lastly, I get to do all this stuff with my full-time job with Auth0. Auth0 is a company that I love, absolutely, and the team, the culture, everything about it. And what we do is authentication and authorization identity services for developers. So we try to make it as easy as possible for you to incorporate login and authorization into your applications as a developer. So if you're interested in anything about Auth0, please reach out and ask, and we can have a conversation about that. Also, keep an eye out for the, let's see if I can pull this one up too, the Auth0 channel, if I can spell it correctly, Auth0. We are going to be, my team and I are going to be streaming on the Auth0 channel a couple of times a month. So you definitely want to look at that channel as well. We'll have some cool guests. We've already got some stuff that we're lining up with Gatsby to come on. And I think we've got some overlap with Sanity that we started to talk about. So we'll probably have you back as well on the Auth0 channel. So you definitely want to follow that one as well. Get a comment that Auth0 is great. I love to hear that.
It is awesome. Yeah.
So that's all the like Auth0 promotional stuff I have. But if you're interested in any of that, feel free to reach out. And one last thank you for joining. One last thank you for everyone in the chat for participating. And I can't wait for the next one. So we'll schedule that out and then send it out on Twitter.
Cool stuff.
All right. I'm going to call it. Thanks again, everybody. And I will see you tomorrow, hopefully in the stream.
See ya.